All right, now we're getting ready for putting drywall on. We put our electricity through, we put our plumbing through. Now we got to put drywall boards up. We got to measure and lay them out. We need a T-square, various layout tools like squares and stuff like that. And a T-square is generally more common. You need sawhorses or a place to have the board and stuff laid out. You're going to want chalk lines so you can make marks. It's on my rig. Pull out. People know what chalk line is. Pull it out. Snap it to lay marks. You're going to want a big long straight edge in some cases. I have a nice long level or just a big, literally just a straight edge, what have you. And then when you're done with the lines, most of the time you can score them and cut them with a razor blade. I don't often use the blade that has adjustable lengths. Again, it seems simple enough to screw that a couple times, run it out, screw it up, and cut with it, unscrew it, run it in. It actually takes more time and effort than just pushing this out to a perfect depth and bringing it back. It has detents in it, so you can lock it halfway out or whatever. But that's one simple move, and it makes all the difference in the world. This also has a wire stripper in it if you want to do that. Or various things there. It basically just exposes the blade a little bit lower in a little notch, so you can do other tasks and stuff with it. And a blade change, I probably can't do this one-handed, but this little, you just push this button and you can pull that blade right out of there and put another one in there real easy. And in the base of this knife are the extra, ooh, there we go, can't see them, there they are hiding in there, but everything's right in there. This is the sort of razor I like for drywall. It also fills the hand better, and so drywall is actually really dense, and so you can cut it no problem, but it really doesn't travel into the board very much, so you're putting a lot of pressure on your hand again all day, and having a bigger diameter that sits in a bigger hand and palm of the hand better helps you not have achy hands at the end of the day. So this is the sort of knife that I would score, and I'd score a pencil line or a chalk line, and then you just snap the board like that. Other times you have to go around a funky shape or around a can light in the ceiling or whatever, then you have a router. And this runs on a battery, but it just has a side cutting blade on there, and it'll also pierce. You can have you can take the shoe and adjust it deeper or more shallow. A lot of guys that do drywall all the time take the shoe right off. They just have a feel for where things are in terms of the depth. But you can just plunge and just eat a hole around an outlet box or a can light in the ceiling to get those sort of shapes done. This goes real easy and quick. So that'll get you all set up with a piece to put on, and then the last piece of the puzzle is attaching with screws. And I don't like to use an ordinary impact, because the idea with drywall is you leave a little dimple around the screw, but you don't tear through the paper. It's a very delicate balance of the right pressure and depth of drive, so to pull a little dimple in that can be easily filled with putty but not tear through the paper, because at that point it really isn't holding much. It'll just tear right on through the board all the way. So the cone on this gun creates a situation where it bottoms out against that surface, and then the screw cams out of the little driver tip, and it won't go any deeper into the wall. And you can even do things here, like you can set this thing to how do I do this? You can set it to this mode, so you can keep the trigger pulled, and when you push, it'll drive. That's how that goes. Anyway, there's different modes, so you can leave the trigger locked on, or it depends on what you like. But the format is so that you can push directly straight, and it's comfortable and quite light, and it just goes real easy, running screws in, zip, zip, zip. You can put a magazine of screws on this thing if it gets a little bit big and out of control. If you're a crazy drywaller who's 100% drywalling all the time, maybe you love those, but it was well worth it to me just to get a gun specific to drywall. And it's got a nice big belt loop on it too, because back and forth constantly all day with drywall, I need to hang this thing up on my belt and manipulate something with both hands, and then when I get it there, I can't move. I have to just load up a screw and put a couple screws in there to hold it, which is excellent because that's right on my belt there. So that'll get us opened up, torn apart, disassembled, new systems either supplemented or added from scratch, and then we can cover things up with drywall once again. If you run into a situation where you have to leave it overnight, it's nice to have a roll of danger tape or something else like that. Leave everybody right the hell out and away from everything that may cause a lawsuit, basically. And then drywall finishing, typical stuff: sandpaper sponges, knives, mud knives. I'm not going to get into all of that. It's a whole sort of serious career choice that doesn't rasps, if I need to take a hair's breadth off of an area of drywall, if your cut's a little wiggly and one of the highest little areas of the cuts that wiggle is keeping you from putting the piece in place where it needs to go, having a little rasp, which is just like a cheese grater, you can just shoo, 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 shoo on the edge real quick and take progressively more and more material off. There also is a full-size version that you push, but that'll square up and straighten up and float along, and you can adjust the edges of a sheet of drywall pretty easy with that, the raw edges of it, which is nice. And all the time that we're doing this, we've got things on like a respirator with particle masks when it's appropriate. This is going to be a HEPA filter if it's pink like this, so it's going to meet that standard. You got your safety glasses on. Find some that you like. Find something that fit well. Find something that you can put on and leave on for the whole day and just get used to wearing them. It's just something that you have to do. Ear protection, little earplugs. I've got 2 pairs of these in every set of pockets of the pants that I own. They go through the wash and come back out and dry, but I've always got the ability to reach in my pocket almost always and put a pair of earplugs in, because some of these tools are outrageously loud and damage your ears. Okay, lighter in case you need fire sometimes. That's important. Scissors are important, pretty conventional stuff here. A little file and a little wire brush to clean the file out. What did I use this for? I had chips in the enamel and in the porcelain sink in the other place, and so I came along and I cleaned off that chip real good with a solvent, dry. It was like a black chip out to the steel, and then I mixed up some epoxy putty. This is quick wood. I love this. I'll talk about this after this, but I had some water weld, which is bright white color. You just cut the little log off. It's got both components. It's got a little sticker on there to protect it, but the center is one component, the outside is wrapped with the other. So you slice off what you need and you hand knead it together. Now this one will cure to the consistency of the density of wood, basically. It's got a lot of wood filler in there. They're all epoxies, but this is full of sawdust, and so what you get in the end is roughly the density of wood. The one I had was roughly the density of ceramic, and it's bright white. You wash your hands. Notice how filthy my hands is. You wash them real well so you're not donating any dirt to the whiteness of the epoxy, or wear little gloves. There's some gloves right here. But you mix it up, you add it to the chip, you let it cure overnight, and then you come back and you can float the file over the ceramic or the enamel, and it won't cut into the glass of that, but it will float right along and shoo, 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 and you can shape that epoxy back into the contour of the sink, and then you can sand that area a little bit, sand it up to 600, 800, 1200 sandpaper or so, and you can get it to be as smooth as the glass, and without sanding on the glass, you're just real careful. But that's the type of thing that you have around just to make small, low-key repairs to stuff like that. The wood, I was using that where I had problems with lock sets all over in the other place. The strike plate and the mortise, the little dish or the little bit of little area of the door jamb that's been removed to accommodate the strike plate so that it's smooth with the jamb, that had been drilled and re-drilled and drilled and re-drilled and moved up and down because somebody didn't know what they were doing. It people, I'm sure you've seen it all over the place, but they've destroyed the integrity of the jamb, and 2 screw holes or 3 or 4 all too close to one another forward and back. There's no way to drill and screw and install new ones again or adjust it. It's been completely destroyed. So I pulled the strike plate out of most of the jambs up there, cleaned out all the loose bric-a-brac, and then I mixed up a bunch of quick wood and packed it all in and did the nicest job I could where it was a little bit too much, but it was close to the geometry, and then I just sanded it in flush, and I basically had a brand new solid wood jamb with no holes from screws or the hole drilled for the latch itself, and I was able to completely from scratch install new strike plates, drill new holes, put everything together, and paint it, and it looks like the day it was made brand new, and I didn't have to dig the jamb out of the wall or anything else. So little repair materials like this are extremely important to getting everything to come back in for a landing. Nailing up your trim. Where's my brad nailer? I don't really use 15. I certainly don't use 15. I don't use 16 even gauge finish nails. 18 gauge brads. I have the other guns, but this is the 18 gauge brad nailing gun, and this is what I'll put almost all trim up with. rails and stiles and baseboard and crown and everything. I'll put those all up. But inevitably, there's nails that don't sink far enough in. So you get a nail set. It's got a little dish in the end to sit on the end of a finish nail, and you just whack it with a hammer, and it makes a little dimple and sends the nail down in below the surface of the trim so it can be filled. So you want to go around with that and drive everything down in there. So now we've got things put back together again, trim shot on, door jambs and everything finished, and dialed back in and put all back together again. So let's pause here and we'll jump back in for the final video about sort of painting and finishing stuff out.